Today we are going to study the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales is the most prominent work by Geoffrey Chaucer, who is known as the father of English literature. What is a prologue? A prologue is the opening part of a book. It's more like an introduction to the main story. It introduces the main characters and the themes. In the Canterbury Tales, the general prologue introduces the 31 pilgrims and explains why they are traveling together. Again, remember there were in total 31 pilgrims. Chaucer, 29 pilgrims who were already there in the Tabardine, and the 31st was the host of the inn himself. Study General Prologue to the Canterbury. Here are some of the basic facts. The author who wrote General Prologue to the Canterbury is Geoffrey Chaucer. The date in which it was written was around at the end of 14th century. It was written during Middle English period, and the language in which it was written was also Middle English language. It's a narrative poem written in heroic couplets. That is, it is written in rhymed iambic pentameter. So in General Prologue, Chaucer have described about all the characters who are going to be the part of this Canterbury Tales. In all, there are 30 pilgrims, including Chaucer himself, and there will be a host along with them. All these 30 pilgrims are staying in an inn named Tabardine, and they are staying there so that they can carry on their journey next day to the Canterbury, where they want to visit Thomas Becket's shrine in Canterbury Cathedral. So it's a religious journey, and Chaucer met all these 29 pilgrims in the Tabardine. So in total, there are 30 pilgrims who met in the Tabardine, and the host of the Tabardine is Harry Bailey. We will be discussing all the characters later in the video. Now, the device used by the Chaucer to narrate his story is framing device. In this device, basically, a story is told within a story. So there is a contest suggested by the host of the Tabardine, where each pilgrim has to narrate 4 stories, 2 on their way to Thomas Becket shrines and 2 while coming back. Then again, destination, as I mentioned, they are going to shrine of Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral, and the very first line begins with the description of the season, April. April sour fruit. So here are taken some archaic words from the original General Prologue, because the language in which it was written is Middle English, that is the Old English. The line described the arrival of the month April. So here comes structure and purpose. If we talk about structure, so as I have already told you that it's in a storytelling method and it's written in heroic couplets. Function of the prologue is to introduce all the pilgrims and to set up frame narrative for tales. Chaucer will be describing the characters, and he won't judge anyone directly. He will just observe them and describe them as it is. He will be using ironical sentences. This is the main technique he used. He praises flaws to expose them. Even if he wants to criticize someone, he will praise them. That means his words will mean exactly opposite to what he is saying. So the genre of the work is that the work is an state satire. An state satire is one where 3 states, that is clergy, nobility, commons, all are criticized. So here I have mentioned the opening line of the prologue. It is important. When that April with his shower sweet. It is the most quoted line from the prologue. These lines describes the arrival of the month of April. So what happens is that when all these pilgrims are staying in the Tabard Inn, the host of the Tabard Inn suggests a proposal that in order to entertain themselves during the journey, what they will do is that each one of the pilgrims will narrate 2 stories while going to the Thomas Becket shrines, and 2 stories while coming back from Thomas Becket shrine. Actually, there should have been in total 120 tales, but only 24 exist, because if one pilgrim has to narrate 2 stories while he's going and 2 stories while he's coming back, then in total one has to narrate 4 stories. This way, if in total there are 30 pilgrims, because host will accompany them but will not be the part of it, he will judge their stories. So in all there are 30 pilgrims. So if one has to narrate 4, then 30 means total 120 stories must be narrated. But Chaucer could complete only 24. You will get to see first use of realism in English literature in this work, because before this, authors were busy writing about kings and praising them, or writing about knights and their chivalry, or sometimes about gods as in epic. But no one was talking about commoners. But in this work, we will get to see 14th century England complete. Here we have characters ranging from nobility to clergy to commoners. The first pilgrim described by the Chaucer is knight, and the last pilgrim described by the Chaucer is pardoner. So again, the purpose of prologue is to introduce the pilgrims, describe their characters, sets the background of the journey, and it gives a social satire. Like you will see how Chaucer has criticized religious people of clergy, exposing their vanity and greed. Again, as I told you that it is written in iambic pentameter. One more thing is that Chaucer took the idea or inspiration of writing this work from Boccaccio's Decameron. Its style is also somewhat similar to Canterbury Tales, but Chaucer's work is more realistic. It was first published by William Caxton. We all know William Caxton was the person who first brought printing machine to England. Again, the Chaucer has used the technique of frame narrative. What frame narrative is? So story within a story. When you tell a story within a story, then that is frame narrative. So this technique has been used by Chaucer. If we see the themes of the prologue, so it's a social satire. We see Chaucer criticizing the society, especially the church and its corruption. Realism and humor presents real human behavior with good and bad qualities both. Although Chaucer doesn't use any harsh word or rude words to criticize, even he use very ironical and humor, even if he wants to criticize someone. Appearance versus reality. You will see people dressing religiously, but still trying to imitate aristocratic traditions and full of greed and selfishness. Fourth important key theme is pilgrimage as a life journey. Many people see pilgrimage as a movement from sin to salvation. So that has been very well explained. As I told you, the tone of the prologue is humorous and realistic, shows real life people and their behavior. Chaucer has used four aspects of a pilgrim in order to describe his character, his appearance, his behavior, profession, and speech. For example, if the Chaucer has to describe the prioress, he will tell that how she is dressed very neat and elegant and wearing a gold brooch. She will tell how she behaves, like how she is very emotional, that she even cries even for small things like mice. He will tell you her profession, that she is the prioress. He even tells you that how she tries to imitate French, although her accent is very imperfect. So this is how he covers all the four aspects: appearance, behavior, profession, and speech while describing the character of a pilgrim. Now here comes all the character described in chronology. The very first Chaucer starts with nobility and military character, and the very first character he describes is the character of knight. Knight is the very first pilgrim described. He is a brave, honorable, and ideal Christian warrior. Then comes the squire in order of description. The squire is the son of the knight, and he is 20 years old. He is lusty and but very artistic and romantic bachelor. Then comes the yeoman. He is also with the knight. He is well armed and he is well armed servant and expressed forester dressed in green. I will be describing each of them in more detail later. It's just an overview of all the characters. Then he describes about the higher clergy, ecclesiastical figures. The very first is the prioress, whose name is Madame Eglantine. She is gentle, sentimental nun with overly refined table manners. That is, she pretends to be very aristocratic, especially on the table. Then comes the second nun, traveling as the secretary and chaplain to the prioress. So she is with the prioress and acting more like her secretary in the prologue, as described by the Chaucer. Then comes the nuns priests. They are again three unnamed priests who are accompanying the prioress. Then there comes the monk. He is a robust, wealthy hunter who openly disdains the strict traditional rules of his monastic order. That means even though he is a monk, he doesn't follow monastic orders and hates strict traditional rules. Robust means someone who is healthy and fat. Not fat but strong. Then comes the friar, whose actual name is Huber. The name mentioned in the brackets are the actual name of the characters. Only a few characters have been given the actual name by the Chaucer. So the friar, that is Hubert, is a corrupt, sweet-talking beggar who frequent taverns. Frequent taverns means that is he visits a pub or bar on a regular basis and prefers bribe over helping poor. Then comes the description of the upper middle class, the secular professionals. Then there comes the description of upper middle class. The very first is the merchant. He is a somber businessman. He dressed in a colorful attire. But behind this colorful attire, he's trying to conceal his personal debts. That means outwardly he wants to look rich, but in actual he was a poor debtor. The clerk. He's a severely impoverished, he is very, thin looking guy, and he's a student from Oxford University, and he is very devoted to books. Even he, uses all money to buy books. The sergeant of law, man of law, he is a wise, highly capable, and wealthy lawyer who appears busy than he actually is. That means he pretends to be busier all the time. The Franklin, a wealthy, hospitable landowner who lives for sensory pleasures, food, and wine. See, all the character has been described by their profession. Only a few characters has been given names, which I have mentioned in the brackets. So if I say Franklin, that means someone who owns land. Then there comes the description of the working class and guildsmen, the five tradesmen. So these all five are mentioned all together: a haberdasher, carpenter, weaver, dyer, and tapestry maker. traveling together in identical fraternity livery. That means all of them are wearing identical uniforms, and a haberdasher is someone who sells articles for sewing. Then comes the next character, the cook, whose name is given Roger. He is employed by the tradesmen. He makes excellent food but possesses an unsightly ulcer on his leg. Also, he dresses very unhygienically. The shipman, he is an unmerciful dagger wearing, because he is wearing a dagger, sea captain who frequently steals wine from his merchants. The doctor of physics, he is a physician, he loves gold, he relies strictly on astrology and ancient medicines. Then comes the lower middle class and pious commoners. The wife of Bath, her name is Alison, and why she is wife of Bath? So Bath is not the name of a person, it's the name of place, and because he has already married to 5 person, and even now looking for another person to get married with, and all of them were from Bath, so she has been titled as the wife of Bath. The parson is a truly holy, poor country priest who models devout Christian behavior for his flock. Flock means all the people who gather in congregation. So here, the parson is the member of clergy who looks after pastoral responsibility of a local small parish. The plowman or the ploughman, the parson's brother, he is the parson's brother. He is a hardworking and deeply religious and honest agricultural laborer. The corrupt commons and church officer. So the first one is the miller, whose name is Robin, a loud, husky, vulgar man with a hairy wart on his nose, who steals grain and plays bagpipe. So Miller has a wart on his nose, and you know the miller is one who grinds grain. So he steals grain. The manciple, a clever business agent who purchases provisions for a legal temple, regularly outsmarting his educated masters. So manciple is a person who is really responsible for buying food or some other goods for an institution like monastery, school, colleges, etc. He was really good at bargaining, and that's why it is mentioned that he was a clever businessman. He even outsmarted his masters, his educated masters at times. The next is the reeve. His name is also mentioned in the bracket. He is a slender, hot-tempered state manager who secretly embezzles from his lord. So he is basically manages a landowner's estate or estates. He was very shrewd. He is a very skilled carpenter, and he is richer than his master because he secretly benefits himself from the profits he makes by his master's estates. The partner. He is a corrupt church official with greasy yellow hair who sells fake religious relics and indulgence. So partner in Christianity is a person who grants forgiveness of the sins that people did if they do confessions. So here the character of the partner has been shown corrupt because he used to grant indulgences in exchange of money. And at last we have two interesting characters, and the most important one, the frame narrative characters. The first one is Chaucer, who is the narrator of the complete General Prologue, and the second one is the host, who suggested the proposal of narrating the stories. To all the pilgrims. Chaucer, that is the narrator or the author, has been fictionalized somewhat, naive person of the poet who observes and records the travelers. And the host, if we talk about him, he is very lively and acts as a group's guide. Later during the journey, we will get to see another character, Canon's yeoman. Here are some of the important questions. The first one is, who has amor vincit omnia? So it was written in the golden brooch of the prioress. It's a Latin phrase, and what does it mean? It means love conquers all. So the prioress was wearing a golden brooch on which it was inscribed. Second is, who loved gold in physic? So the doctor of physic, who was a physician himself, loved gold. Third one is, who had gapped tooth or teeth? So it is again very important. Wife of Bath had gap teeth. Epicurus' own son. So Epicurus is no any character here, but an ancient Greek philosopher. Franklin has been described as Epicurus' own son. Who could trip and dance? So Squire could trip and dance. He was the son of the knight and was 20-year-old guy. Monk has been referred as outrighter. Motto of Tales contest. Tales of best sentence and most solace, that is the tale which has a moral lesson, and which will be the best entertaining tale will be the winning tale, and the prize rewarded will be a free supper or at the tabardin. Here we have a quick review. You can read it yourself. I'm just reading the first one. For example, ideal 3. So ideal 3 pilgrims described are knight, parson, ploughman or ploughman. Similarly, I have mentioned 5 corrupt church members, 7 merchant class people, 5 working class, 3 gentry. That's all. In the next video, I will be describing their characters of the important pilgrims in detail analysis. Thank you for watching me.